Right, yo, Character Attack Podcast with myself, Daps.
Spence.
Lamin.
Yes, we've got a special guest here, guys. Who we got today?
Kevin George.
Kevin George.
Come on, Kev.
What do you say? Come on, I don't know what to say. What do I say?
You need a bit of vim.
That's it. Kevin George. I can't keep it, you know, I like to warm up. Otherwise, I like pull a muscle. Do you know what I'm saying? Let me ease the people in, man.
Shout out Georgie, man. Hey, let's get that guy. Shout out Georgie.
Shout out George.
Shout out Georgie, bro. Talk to me.
How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm looking forward to this, to be fair.
Yeah, that's good.
Long time coming, though.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Oh, me and you the other day, I was like, no, we got to do it today because otherwise it will never happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, nah, to be fair, he did come back the other week saying you were good for today. And I totally forgot he said that, to be honest. Totally forgot. But yeah, guys, keep liking, subscribing, sharing, Soundcloud, iTunes. We don't really get people listening on Soundcloud anymore.
Do you know what? Someone asked me a question.
Do you still check all that stuff?
Nah, I just
on
upload.
Acast,
I just upload and go. No, but I upload on Acast because then it goes out to
everywhere.
else and we get the ads. But you know what? Funny enough, I was actually going to say, do people like? I might come off Acast.
I think the SoundCloud and the iTunes thing probably works a little better for some weird reason.
No. Everything is still on everything, but because of the ads are just too long,
it just
man.
keeps cutting in.
And I don't mind the ads and everything, but it's the ones in the middle because halfway through the thing. But anyway, that's a conversation to be had. But yeah, guys, like I said, keep liking, subscribing, sharing, all of that. If you don't like the ads, then just say you don't like the ads, and we'll cut them off. Because I don't know.
Can you do that?
Yeah, if I take it off Acast, but then obviously we lose ads and all of that. But
YOLO.
yeah, I don't know. Because when I listen to it, I've got the what do you call it? What do you call it when you
Your hand.
the what? Yeah,
Shout out, bro.
I see all of that stuff.
He's a techie guy right
So-
there, man.
Trust me, shout out Brent.
Get me.
But yeah, so apologies for the late release of the visuals for the last week's one with Lamin and Mike. I was away and
Is that out, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, he's taking a piss.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're mugging it, man.
Why?
What's that? Who sent it out?
The visuals.
Oh, the visuals.
Yeah,
Sorry, that
yeah,
was
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Sorry,
the visuals, yeah.
No.
Wow.
It's true. I didn't realise that was out.
Yeah, the visuals, it took me
Sorry,
ages
Spence.
to put that out.
You
'cause I
don't
was away
apologise, you're good, man.
trying to do it in Barca. And obviously I'm the one that does that because Spence is hopeless with the tech and Lamin is just on a plane somewhere. He's never got signal. So, yeah.
Airplane mode.
But yeah, guys, we're going to get into it today. You don't watch much of the football this weekend?
I ain't seen nothing.
Yeah. Right, man, we're going like he's getting questioned by the feds.
I was like this.
Oh, so don't get it.
I ain't seen anything, to be fair.
Have you not?
Who played this? Who was it? It was
Chelsea the other night, innit?
That was how bad are Chelsea?
Mate.
He's a sorry man, you see.
Yeah, proper.
Oh, was it?
No, he's
Yeah.
called Arsenal, but he's a sorry man.
Proper.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, sorry, bruv. It's like anything. You can't judge a man off 5-6 months, but it's just football today, innit?
I think management's agile though. Like I don't think you can be a manager and stand still. Like Sarri's been successful, that's why he's there, right? But things ain't working, and he's just like it seems like he's being stubborn to it. Like, how you're just hammering your players out in public? It's not working. They just sacked him off.
No, he is. He's like you can tell even with his age. Older you are, naturally you're just more stubborn. Do you know what I mean? And I think with him it's more he's just sticking to what he knows, as in not like you can get onto older managers tend to get onto people and they're not as good as managing individuals.
But Sir Alex wasn't like that.
As in,
So he wasn't stubborn to his own ways.
no, he's quite an exception. But that's why he went the test of time, really. Because he was there early 90s when it was like, have a pint and you could still play. And then he went through when like Wenger come in and it started to get quite technical.
More scientific.
He went through that phase. Like he went through like 3 different phases of football. Because he evolved and he brought in people in his team who were, like when he brought in Carlos Queiroz, who tactically was up there. Like he could see what was happening and moved with it. But majority of times, older people not really like
But
that.
what do you say for those times where it's just blatant poor management? So
Yeah.
Or what for like the Sarri? For Sarri?
like the whole Kante thing. Like it's not working.
Yeah,
just doesn't work.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
It doesn't work.
It's one of like he's just being extremely stubborn. But I think in his mind, this is what I'm assuming. In his mind, he's probably thinking, all right, this is what I've got. This is what Jorginho gives me. But I need another couple windows in order to get this, and this to kind of fit to fit the pieces together.
That could be probably one of the worst decisions I've seen in football. What he's done.
The Kante one.
Yeah, because the whole world knows you don't have much time anyway, especially at Chelsea. So my thing is you've not got time to spend that money on Jorginho and kind of in a way try and wait for a few windows and whatnot. You got one of the best holding midfielders and you move him out of position. My thing was, it was so stupid. I thought, maybe I've missed something. I wanted to see this all somehow come about. And I'm like, he knew what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Even to be fair, at the start, like I said, I'm a Sarri guy. So when he done it, I was like, until he shows me otherwise, I'm not going to criticise him.
Yeah.
He's a Chelsea manager end of the day, innit?
Yeah.
It's not the greatest decision, I can't lie. But with him calling out the players, I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. The only reason I say that, the only reason I say that is because it's happened under Mourinho, it's happened under Conte, and now it's happened now. So the only thing that's been constant are the players. So for me, maybe it's something that's wrong in that dressing room.
Yeah, but then, all right, so here's what I'm going to say. So you've got the players. Who's in charge of that environment? The manager, right? The manager,
but if the players have been there for X amount of time, it's kind of, the players kind of govern that to an extent.
Not really, because imagine you're my gaffer. Everything I do is under your rule. So if the team's not performing, it's going to be your fault. Like if I'm playing, for me, I take accountability. So if I'm playing dead, I'm biting. But I've played for managers where they're not on passing the ball. They're on percentages. So then I've got to do my best within that remit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then the overall, when you look at the overall team's performance, it's the manager. So if I'm biting already, and then you're going out to the press and hammering me, really, you're killing yourself.
You're killing yourself. And this is that's a really good point. And this is something that I've always maintained about when it comes to football management. Because you've got, like, obviously Spence was saying, you've got Mourinho, you've got Conte. I think equal times on every occasion with Chelsea, for whatever reason, it's not worked there. Doing that. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Mourinho's gone to Man United. He's done a lot of the same things. It hasn't worked there for him. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I think I'm in agreement with you, Kev. I think there's some decisions that he's made that it's so not bizarre, because like Spencer said, it's either he believes he's got all of the time in the world to do what he wants to do, because even at Napoli, it took him a little bit of time to kind of get his team in it. Do you know what I mean? And I like him as a manager. I can see, when you watch his teams, you can see what he's trying to do. You can see how he wants to play. You can see the sort of the triangles, the diamonds he wants to play in. But I just think with Chelsea, Chelsea are so rigid in terms of their structure. I think it's so difficult unless you're given the opportunity to get an influx of players that you choose. Because I think even Conte had the same problem. Do you know what I mean? And Conte had to kind of then adapt to whatever he had, change the formation up, because obviously Chelsea was 4-3-3. He changed it to 3-4-3 because he felt like, do you know what, we need to be a bit more solid in terms of our defensive, and then we'll go and win games on the counter. Shout out counter attack. So
ooh, I like the way you worked that.
Yeah, you like that, was good, isn't it? Yeah. So I think for me, a manager, like you're saying, a new age manager's got to be agile. I think you don't survive in this world if you're not. And I think when you talk about people like the Fergusons, I also put people like Ancelotti in it. Ancelotti for me, he's changed. He's changed a lot over, like, when he started in Italy. He's obviously gone to Europe and he's gone to Spain and all this other stuff, come to England. He's a very different manager today than what he was when he was with AC Milan.
What do you mean?
Ago.
How?
Well, in terms of, he's weird because he's old school, but he looks at what is going to work and he pretty much enforces what's going to work. Do you know what I mean? He came into Chelsea. Let's use Chelsea for example.
Still being successful.
Yeah, because I think Chelsea is one of the most difficult clubs after the sort of the first Mourinho era. They had a formula. There was a particular kind of player that Chelsea bought who played in a particular kind of way, and they won games in a particular kind of manner. And it don't seem like Avram Grant, Di Matteo, it didn't seem to matter. Rafa Benitez, it didn't seem to matter who came in. They just done what Chelsea do. Do you know what I mean? And that's what people coin this term. You know, that's the way Chelsea play. That's the way Chelsea play. And I think when you look at what Conte's done, Conte changed that with a formation that worked, but he's done it in a really intelligent way. Whereas Sarri, I think he could do so much more with the squad. And I get it. Like the players aren't. Yeah, okay, the players could be rebelling, but like you're saying, like you are the gaffer. Like regardless of that, you are the manager.
On that point, before we do move on, at what point though do you actually have to just look at, you know what, 3 successful world-class managers
Yeah, I get that as well.
are having the same complaints with
I get that as
with
well.
the players. So at what point is it a thing of, okay, I'm doing what I can do, but the problem lies with you guys.
With the group.
No,
Yeah.
See, I mean, I'm completely different. I'm looking at this. If it's not working, you got to then think, okay, what can I do to make it work? Because I know for a fact, if you had someone like Pep Guardiola or Alex Ferguson there, it won't. I'm not saying they're going to be winning things, but it'll be completely different.
The culture will be different.
So I'm looking at now, like you mentioned the early days at Chelsea. The reason why they were successful when they kept changing managers because the team was so good.
So good, yeah.
But then now, in the Conte era, is that they're changing players more often, and the team are not good.
Yeah,
Like when Hazard goes, that team is scrambling. They're struggling already. So
Trust me.
going back what you were saying about Ancelotti, I mean, he's done a book on quiet leadership, which I read. It's brilliant.
Serious? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
and
I
he
need to
talks
read
about
that
his
one.
style. He's been consistent throughout his career.
Yeah.
And he also talks about Abramovich coming to his yard, or I think he invited Ancelotti to his yard and started badding him up because he didn't win by enough.
Oh, serious?
Yeah. And so he was talking about going to, and things like going to Madrid and how the owners of Madrid, they knew his style. So obviously in the football circuit, they know what
They know what
manager's
you're gonna
going.
get. You know what you're gonna
yeah,
get. Yeah.
They know the style. And he's someone who is basically very calm.
Very.
And it's all based on the wellness and the happiness of his players.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the Real Madrid owners were basically trying to say, no, you need to be more stern. He's like, well, hold on a minute, you know my style. Why bring me in then? And Michael Beale, who I spoke to, who's at Rangers now with Gerrard, he was like, best manager he's worked with.
Ancelotti.
Yeah,
Serious?
because it's about the team's state.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. When you look at a manager, whether you're working in a 9-to-5 job or a football team, when you look at their staff or the players, their happiness, their success, everything comes down to them. It's leadership. Whether even if it's your youth and you're the parent, but you can say, "Oh, it's a bad youth." That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Do you
saying?
think
Yeah,
an element of
100%.
that is true for, let's say, Tottenham, who compete third in the table and are doing really, really well competing because the manager does focus on the spirit and happiness of the team as opposed to, okay, let's go and get more players because they've had the same team, but spirit looks good in there and they're doing really well.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's consistency as well. I think, one, the players can't really kind of, how can I say it? They can't really have up the manager because they know he's going to be there.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
if I'm at Chelsea, I'm like, whatever, you know what? You're not even going to be here
You might
next
not
week.
be here next year.
But also, the message is continual as well. So, like, if I'm a player and the manager's working on me, he's working on me to improve my game and also improve my game within his system. So then everyone's going to see me flourish in that system. And so I'm going to invest everything because I'm looking at long term. What's the point of me doing that if I'm at another club?
Yeah, agreed.
And I get the vibe that Poch is actually, well, not even I get the vibe, but on my initial books launch, I had Wayne Burnett, who was the under-23 manager.
Yeah, Wayne.
And he was like, look, he values his staff and his players, and it's all about their well-being and their welfare. So if they get that, then what are they going to give him in return?
Yeah, agreed.
Do you know what I'm saying? They're going to give you that bit of it, that bit extra.
Do you know what? I also have this theory that I think Tottenham have hit their, with the group he's got, I think they've hit their ceiling. I don't think they're gonna. I think every year where they kind of miss out, I think it gets further and further away because something in the league changes. The dynamic of the league changes. It seems to change all the time, and it seems to change that little bit further. It's like, you know, when people say so close but yet so far. Do you know what I mean? Spurs for me kind of sum that up. And if you look at them over the last sort of 3 or 4 seasons, obviously they in my opinion, when Leicester won it, Tottenham could have potentially done something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Since who's won it since then? What, City's won it and Chelsea's won it.
City and Chelsea, yeah.
And I think when you look at Tottenham, to be fair, they've not been far away.
The Leicester year was a freak year.
It was out of the ordinary, yeah, of course.
I think really Spurs are doing what they should do. Like
this is my point.
It's always going to be between Man United and Man. Well, not always, but I'm saying at the moment between Man United and Man City.
Man City
are just a better team. Man United are such a superpower
Just a
in terms
superpower,
of,
yeah.
you know what? It's not working. Let's throw money at it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult for Spurs to kind of break unless Levy puts more money in, which they got the stadium.
I looked
and all
at their
that.
market cap, right? I looked at their financials literally, I think 48 hours ago. Right? Man United averagely are running at.
You could have said 2 days, isn't it?
No, it's not just like random to look at that.
Yeah.
That's
No,
why I
I'm sorry.
really
This is the kind of stuff I'm interested in. I'm a finance guy. So I looked at their market cap, and I think they're running at about 800 million, like rotating. But they can have anywhere from 900 million to $1 billion in like credit, like just floating in the market, which is bananas when you think about the way a football franchise doesn't make money. Do you know what I mean? It's not quote unquote set up for that. When you look at Spurs are in the low 400s. So when you actually look at the differences in terms of what you're saying, Man City have got enormous like wealth behind them, but it's almost at will. United are just there's 3 clubs in the English league who don't need to worry about money, and United, Chelsea, and City are the ones. And United are the one out of the 3 of them that's like, you couldn't bankrupt United. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing you could do. And I think when you look at what Ole Gunnar's doing with them at the moment, because do you remember people were saying, oh, the squad's this, the squad's that? Do you remember I kept saying, the squad ain't that bad, you know?
The squad's brilliant.
The squad ain't that bad.
Look at their
you know?
attack.
Do you know what I mean? It's not that bad.
It's brilliant.
But you look at how Man United can go, 2 or 3 seasons with that kind of squad, have so many people in the shadows that you don't even realise, but they can afford to keep them there.
You don't think that attack? All right, so listen.
The attack is brilliant.
So
the squad's good, man. The squad's better than people think.
Look, let's go back to Sarri. So remember we're talking about people not being happy at Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
Look at the difference with Mourinho, and he's killed me because actually in my book, there's
right.
people bigging him up in the book about his
you
leadership.
said,
But look at the difference. As soon as he goes and Solskjaer comes in, how the players feel and how they play.
Yeah, it's true.
That's leadership.
That's that return
Nothing
on,
else.
Yeah, right.
Nothing
That
else.
return on
And
wellness.
what's Solskjaer done? He's brought back all the values and the old school culture.
Yeah.
He's tapped into Ferguson,
Feeling.
brought him back to the training ground,
Yeah.
brought all the things back from his day. Feeling. It's so much about it. And I think he's concentrated things away from football. And also the style of play. If I'm Pogba, I'm thinking, okay, brilliant. This is who I am in the game. Do you know what I'm saying? Instead of me being this kind of person who's having to hold and playing this, I'm playing with shackles.
Shackles. And you know what? He used that word a lot. It's freedom, innit?
It's exactly because sport, even though football comes under a sport, it's an art. You know, what's the saying? Go and express yourself.
Go and express
right?
yourself. Yeah, good
You
shout.
play unconsciously. It's like when you get in the zone, you're not there consciously thinking about things. You go and paint on that canvas. But when you got someone like Mourinho, don't get me wrong. Listen, Mourinho's been extremely successful doing it his way, which isn't the ideal way for people who love the art of football.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't criticise him for his style because Man United knew what they were buying when they got him in.
Agreed.
Even though it went against their values.
No, they didn't know what they were. Yeah, in terms of the style of football, not in terms of the way you manage his stuff.
So my thing is you can't bring him in and then criticise him. And but this is what I say, it's mad how these football clubs run in it. Because Real Madrid did the same thing with him and Capello. It's like, you bring him in, your style's negative, we don't like it.
But you knew that before I come.
This is what they've been like all the time.
That's why we brought me in.
You said something just now about your book. We were going to get on your book. I didn't think we'd have such a long intro into that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. What made you go into book writing? Do you want to talk about your book, like what it's called? And
Okay, so the book's called Soccology, Inside the Hearts and Minds of Professionals, Successful Professionals, sorry. What made me write the book? I think my time in professional football and reflecting on my time when I came out of the game and also speaking to other players. There was so many things that I looked on, whether it be, one, I didn't really learn much when I was in the game.
Yeah.
2, people not really being honest. And 3, looking at kind of why they weren't really honest. You know, like basically professional football, I refer to it as being unprofessional. And no one don't really know what they're doing. So it's like,
that's a good point.
if you played 300 league games in the Premier League and you play for England, everyone's like, oh yeah, you know, he's a top lad, he knows the game, he's experienced. What do you know? You're just a talented kid given contracts and a platform. You don't know anything. Everything comes from your experience. And if you can't articulate it, what good is it?
What good is it to anyone?
What good is it?
Yeah,
so
agreed.
when I watch people speak about it, because for me, I'm an all or nothing. I literally throw myself into stuff, right? So when I look at it and I listen to these people talk, former players speak or current players speak about the game, I'm like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
How can you tell me if I want to be the best, what can you tell me? So all you hear is work hard, do extras after training.
The generic stuff.
Yeah, it's all generic. There's nothing specific. So I thought to myself, okay, no, I want to do a book on this. And there was some other things as well, looking at how coaches advise players. So for me, when I was a kid, it was always like, be a team, right? Teams don't make it.
Yeah, agreed.
If you're in an academy, the gaffer's not going to come down and say, oh, how's the team get on? Yeah, let's get them all in the first team. It don't work like that. They're looking at individuals. So when I look at, say, someone like Jermaine Defoe, when I was at West Ham, he was an animal, he was an individual. If we won and he didn't score, he's biting. If we lost and he scored, he's cool. Because the bottom line is like he's a part of that team, but he wants to make sure he's doing his bit. And I think that one of the biggest parts of a team is actually, doing your job. Because then we can all function. If you're not doing your job or you're working in other areas, then you're not really helping the team. So I feel like this whole glorification of teamwork holds players back, it held me back. And I thought I want to write about that to kind of let other younger players coming through realize, actually, no, I need to be more selfish. Also, how clubs don't have your best interest at heart. I think there's a lot of people who work at clubs who go above and beyond for players. They do stuff like they see kids in vulnerable areas, they move them out and everything. But that's the individual. But actually, staff that work at clubs don't have your best interest at heart, but they can't, because if they do, it becomes a conflict of interest. So the player and the parent will listen to their every word. And then next thing you know, when they get let down or the kid gets released, they're like, well, hold on a minute, you said X, Y, and Z. And then they're upset, but it's too late then.
Yeah.
Do you focus more in your book on like the younger?
It's all players.
So it is all.
Yeah, so what I did is I wanted to make sure the book was bulletproof. So I used my experience as a player and as a consultant. But what I done is research inside of football and outside of football. And then I interviewed, but it was more conversational, spoke to players previous generations. So people like Paul Mortimer, Quinton Fortune, Kieran Richardson. Then I spoke to the current players of Gail Clichy, Fabian Delph, Bart Ramselaar, Wesley Hoyt. Then I spoke to the next generation of players coming up. So like Luca Ercolani, who's at United and plays for Italy, and Matthew Dennis at Arsenal in England. And so you've got players from all around the world, across generations. So no one can argue with the book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because you've got all these players and they're telling their stories.
Right. So what made you like stop kicking, or you just was it injuries or?
No, it wasn't injuries. You know what? It makes it up. Every time people ask me that, they always say, "Is it injuries?" And you know, certain man they drop that one as well. Yeah, man, I got injured, so I dropped that.
Shall I tell you why I say that?
Go.
Because when you said a lot of time when you hear people say, "This is why I stopped the game," and I stopped playing, blah blah. Something has to happen for them to stop.
Yeah, it's
not usually
a life event.
It's not usually a thing of
I just
I've had enough. I've done my time. It's normally a thing of injuries or couldn't find a club or whatever.
It's funny. I was explaining him a meeting earlier. When I got in the game, I had to hustle my way in. So it was a case of wanted to play football, couldn't get scouted. So I was researching clubs, to get trials and stuff. Hustled, training every day with my boys. Like there was 4 of us who all became pros. I've never heard of that anywhere. Right? So I finally got in. West Ham were like, we're not sure if we're going to sign you. I was absolutely buzzing when they said that, like in terms of, the last year schoolboys. Because they released, when you're young and you got like the main boys like in the area your age, right? They released the main boys. So I'm going into my meeting and thinking, man, I'm gone.
Yeah.
So they said, we're not sure. I was like, yes! It's like they said, you get your 10-year deal. I'm buzzing. So I was playing as a striker at the time, right? So I'm like, cool. Going back to pre-season, it was YTS back then. But before I go back, I'm watching a game at Millwall, like watching Cherno Sambra and them lot and Gomar for Millwall. So I'm there and everyone's like, you heard news? I'm like, what? West Ham had just signed Jermaine Defoe for 1.6 million. So I'm like, oh man, like I'm thinking of my exit strategy now because I'm thinking, what's the point? I'm not even just looking at first team. I'm looking to the side in terms of they've brought someone my age for 1.6 million. He's always going to be pushed. So luckily, my friend Kevin James was at Charlton and he got me a trial there.
Shout out Jamesy.
Then I got signed on a non-contract because they're already giving out their YTSs, right? But then, luckily enough, I shouldn't even say luckily because I hustled to get it, but I signed pro at 17. So it's like everything was always a hustle, always almost like insecurities in terms of performance. I'm always trying to earn and scraping. Then I got another contract, but then when I got released, Curbs was like, look, if you want to hang around for 3 months, I'll have a look. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what? Like, I've been here all these years and you're talking about if I want to hang around.
Yeah.
So I was upset about that. And then the assistant manager, Keith Peacock, called me in the office and he was like, look, you upset? And I said, yeah. And he said, why? And I said, I felt like I deserved the chance and I never got it. And he said to me, in all the years that I've done this, players say that, but actually I agree with you. So I was proud, but I'm thinking, hold on a minute, you've wasted like the most vital times of my football career. But for me, and it wasn't a conscious thing, but I was unwilling to reinvest because of what I was served up. So I was still going on trials, and still going to clubs, but it's because of, I'm just thinking, okay, earning a living.
Yeah.
And then I had little things along the line, like I was signed at Grimsby, but I missed the deadline, so I couldn't play in the first team. But they could have signed me. I was there before, but what I thought was that the gaffer maybe had other targets. And because he couldn't get those targets, he was like, yeah, I just signed Kevin. I missed the deadline. So I was biting. I was like, oh, do you know what? As soon as I kind of found something else, I just kind of came out of it.
Wow.
What age was that?
About 23.
You came out
Young,
at 23.
Yeah.
Why do I think you was older than that?
When did it sort of, what age was you when you started thinking, let me put this into a book? Was it like years later on reflection?
Oh yeah, years later. So I started making notes, but I wasn't serious. So everyone says they're gonna do a book. That was me. I was like, yeah, I'll do a book, and I wasn't serious. It was like 2011. I started making notes. I went to see Michel Bruninx, who's like a guy who's credited with like revolutionising Belgian football. So like people like Company and De Vries and all these other guys. He's got this thing called brain-centered learning, and so it's made me curious. And he came over to Bacon's College, funny enough, went to see his talk, and made loads of notes on it. And I speak about him in the book. And then I just over the years started looking at things, making notes. Then I was doing some work in Wandsworth Prison, and this lady had written a book, and she was telling me about it. I was like, oh, that's it. I've got to do a book. I'm going to do it now. And then I started doing the book. Took me like 7 months. Finished it. Got the first chapter edited. And the editor done such a good job, it made me realise the rest of the book was rubbish. So I ended up rewriting the book. So going from July all the way to March March 2018, rewriting the book. And it took forever because it's almost like having your clothes all over in a room and trying to pick out an outfit. Because I had all these notes, which were great. But it was like, how do I dig into that and make chapters and make them make sense and then bring in other stuff? Like it was a grueling period. And then on top of that, interviewing about 50 people. I've got like 45 players. I've got a psychophysicist who created this thing called NeuroTracker. So, you know, like when you were a kid and managed to shout, oh, decision making. No one's ever spoke about how you develop that, by the way. But it's decision making. Well, Professor Jocelyn...
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, so Professor Jocelyn Folberg created something called... He created something called NeuroTracker, which develops situational awareness and decision making. So I interviewed him. And coincidentally, imagine this, the night I spoke to him, so I was up late because he's in Canada. I was working at Southampton the next day. They've got it there. So I ended up using it. Wicked. Yeah. And then Man United have invested in it heavily, but they're quite private. And then Pierre Aubameyang uses it privately as well. So it's a big thing that he uses. So him, senior partner at KPMG, talking about leadership outside of football as well. Like loads of people looking at dance because of it's a heavy part of Brazil's culture.
Yeah, capoeira.
So looking at unconsciously. When people dance unconsciously, we always say they're great dancers, right? Because you're moving. It's almost like you're just moving with the music. When someone moves consciously, you know they're almost like thinking about the beat and trying to move and they're stiff. How does that play out on the pitch with the Brazilian players? So I spoke Spence. To my brother who's got he's got a scholarship with Talia Conte. So I looked at everything that can involve what happens on the pitch. That was probably like 100 hours I transcribed. So it was like a mad slog to kind of get all of this and put it into a book.
It's investment.
Wow. That's actually crazy.
That's investment.
I was going to touch on something. Oh, yeah. How much, when it comes to managing, you can answer this too, does it come down to your actual level of coaching and your actual belief in the players and like the mental aspect of it? Do you get what I'm saying? Because he manages.
Yeah.
Have you liked that conversation?
Yeah, briefly, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously he manages, but I don't know what he would think about this, because the safe answer is just to be like, it's just about how good you are as a coach in regards to actually building up your players. You go here, you go there, tactics and blah blah blah. But then there are some managers who, and I don't know this for facts, but I can imagine like a Zidane is probably more mental and instilling belief in his players. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to a Pep who's literally meticulous with everything. That was a good word, did it? that was a good word.
I think, but even that, like, if you read like Pep's books, like he takes an interest in you as the person. Do you know what I mean as well? And I think as a player, if I invest time in you, you'd be like, I really like this guy, and we can form a type of trust. So when you go out on the pitch, you're prepared to do what you can for you, but also you don't want to let me down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, that's what, when, like, with my players, I try my best. So I know each individual. So, yeah, like, how are you all right? How was uni today? Like, oh, yeah, you go university. What is it you're studying? You know, like, just the little things like that. Just so that it's not just, you know, you see me, especially like, it's different pro club because it's every day. So you kind of get a chance to get to know someone. Whereas non-league, it's like, I see you on a Tuesday, I see you on a Thursday, I see you on a Saturday. And it's limited time. And within that time, we've only got, say, like 2 hours or an hour. And I'm trying to get around 16 different players. So while I'm with you physically, I'll try and give everyone something. But then even away from that, I'm like, I'll text the boys, yeah, how are you? Like, how's the injury?
Yeah,
or when I'm going over like games and stuff like that.
You literally messaged.
Yeah. Or like when we're going over like because we get the I get the games recorded now. So like I'll go over them like on a Saturday night or something. Then if I see something, like an example, one of the boys I was telling him about, when he's got the ball and he's got his back to goal, but he's a wide man, lightning quick, but he's so quick sometimes he draws 2-3 players to him, but then he tries to turn blind back so he can have a run. And as he turns, they'll nick the ball and they break on us. So we say to him, like, when you've got your back to it, just set.
And spin.
Yeah. Just set, because you've got 2 players. So we got an overload somewhere. So if we set, we can get away. So like, if I see like those pictures, like I'll video them and I send each picture which relates to whichever boy and say, you know, when I say this is what I mean. So then I think in their head, they're like, oh yeah, look, he's taken the time, because I'm doing this at like 10, 11, 12 o'clock in my own time. Yeah. So if look what he's prepared to do for me in his own time, and he's got kids and he's got whatever else going on. So then in turn, I feel like they'll be prepared to give it back to me.
Do you know what I think though? I think there's a bit of a trade-off. I think that's a really good point, because like you're saying, I think this goes back to what Kevin was saying about there are certain people within football that will go over and above, and that non-league, obviously, that's not a requirement of what. Well, I can't imagine any non-league managers are doing that, especially at Rome, at the equivalent of the level that you're at. But I think in terms of the coaching and the development side, I've always been a big believer that you can. I don't want to limit everyone, but everyone almost has a ceiling, and I've always attributed, because obviously.
What, the players you mean? Or?
Yeah, because I've always attributed, and I remember it was Gavin, yeah, Rosie, yeah.
Shout out Gavin.
Shout out Gav. He always used to say, that there's a certain amount. You see, like what people can learn in school. You see, sometimes we've all got the same size brain, yeah, but we're not all switched on to the same thing. We don't all use it the same. That's why people have different IQ levels. And I've always been a big believer that your ability to retain information and your attitude to the information that you're taking on, and your desire to do the extras and do the work will always give you a natural advantage, regardless of your physical. And that's because when you look at some players, you know, and people always look at the great thinkers of the players like the Pirlos, the Iniestas, the Xavis, and the people who just, you could just see the Scholesies, they just boss the game with their mind, as opposed to like, you know, they haven't got to run and hassle and harass and do all this sort of stuff. And I've always been a big believer that there's a certain level a coach can give you, but the coach gives you more, it gives you time to repeat the actions that you're good at to get better at them, and to also improve the ones that you're not good at to get better at those, but also importantly, like you're saying about Zidane, gives you the confidence and the belief and the trust that you're doing what you do best and you're doing the right thing. Do you kind of see what I'm saying?
No,
Does that kind of make sense?
But is there one that's more important than the other?
I'm not gonna lie, I got a bit confused. Wait, so what are we saying about the managers? Are we talking about managers still or not?
Yeah, just coaches, managers in general.
Yeah, okay. And what is it? How can they get the best out of players?
Yeah, no,
I think he's saying, is it the coaching that's more important, or the belief I give you?
I think, to be honest with you, what's more important is their connection to their players. It's more important than the coaching. Because at the end of the day, you can be the best coach and give me the information, but if I don't want to play for you, then I'm not going to play for you.
Agreed.
And you can give me no coaching and make me feel brilliant, and regardless, I can go out and flip it. If I'm playing a striker, I'll go and score 10 million goals. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because you make me feel good.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think, obviously, you need both, but I think if there's one that's more important than the other, it's always going to come down to the human connection.
Would you ever did you ever think of going into coaching or managing?
Never. I have no interest.
Even though you're the way you think about football is like
zero interest in coaching.
Why do you?
One, because it's so demanding, and the security in your job. Like I can't say who, but I spoke to like a gaffer at a pro club before I even got a job. Actually, and I said, "Why do you even want to do it? What's the point? Because you don't get a chance."
Is this first team?
Actually, yeah, first team. So you don't even get a chance to implement your ideas. Personally, I think it's because a lot of former players kind of don't really know what they want to do. So that's like, he's kind of really thinking that this is all I can really do. Also, you don't get paid well enough. So my thing is, I'm going to invest all of my time and my effort, and I'm not going to get paid that well, and then I'm not going to have a job. So then I'm going to be out of work and I've got to start again somewhere else. And it's a tough job because you're managing so many egos, and I just think, no, it just doesn't interest me, if I'm being honest.
What were you like as a player? Did you have an ego?
No, I didn't have enough. That's what went against me. And that's, again, another thing I put in the book, because I talk about the environment. I talk about player personalities. So everyone talks about humbling yourself. No matter what, if you're a star, especially, there's pressure to be humble. You see Ronaldo like shaking the kid's hand. He goes all around social media. He's such a nice guy. But we could all do that. But people don't. We judge superstars for it, but we don't take the time out for you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but my thing was, like for me, I was so humble, and I saw questioning management, anyone in the hierarchy as being disrespectful, even though I was well within my right to, because they mistreated me in terms of reserve manager's son couldn't get in the academy, but got in the reserves in front of me, and other things. And I thought, okay, this was so crazy. Was it just me? I met up with my old manager about 2 years ago, and he was like, Kev, I nearly got into fights about how they treated you.
Wow.
So my thing was that culturally, because of how I was brought up, it's like you respect your elders, right? But actually, that went against me. But I know if I had a bit more arrogance about me, I would have kicked on easily. And I've got that now. I spoke to one of my former teammates. His company turns over 25 mil a year, right? And he goes, Kev, if I had this when I was a player, he goes, football taught me this, but I got it too late.
Yeah.
But he goes, at the same time, he goes, football stunted it for me because he was telling me how he got into a fight with Chris Bart-Williams in training.
Chris Bart-Williams.
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah. And he goes, how Kurz must have called him up to the office because Bart's was trying to bad him up, and he was like, no, I had enough. And basically, Curbs basically said, nah, like senior player, whatever. But then the reserve manager who was walking down with him at the time downstairs was saying, you know what, Bart's had it coming for a long time. Now, for me, I would love that because I'm thinking, you know, this youngster's got a bit about him.
Yeah.
But they just kind of stunt you. So when I look at other players who had that ego, I look at playing against Arsenal who used to batter us, and Jerome Thomas arguing with one of my teammates, and he was like, what? I'm going to flick the ball over your head. So then he got the ball. I'll tell everyone the story. And the next time he got it, he flicked it over my teammate's head and smashed it top corner. But with Jerome, he was an unbelievable talent, but he had that arrogance to say, do you know what? I'm going to just tear this game. I'm the best. Now, I'm not saying that you should be arrogant because too much could also be an imbalance. You need balance because I say to people, you've got someone like Cassano, unbelievable talent, but you go on his wiki page, he said all these clubs. So what is it? It was too much arrogance. So you need to have that. It's like you need to have that balance.
Madness.
But at what point is it arrogance and not confidence?
But arrogance is not a bad thing. I think it's been mismarketed. I think, no, it's like, okay, I believe in myself, I'm good enough, or I am the best. Jadon Sancho is, for me, is Jerome Thomas reincarnated. I worked at Man City with his age group, and the things he was coming out of us, I was just cracking up. Again, look at the kind of player he is. Him and Jerome are very similar types of players.
Similar.
So, yeah, very similar.
So what do you think it is about here that, or not even here, but wherever, about football clubs that stunts that stops that arrogance? Because they get to a certain point and they have it. So Jerome Thomas, I remember him at Arsenal having it. Sancho's got it now. At what point is it, what happens where it just stops and they don't have it anymore and all of a sudden they kind of go into show? Because Jerome Thomas, I think it was when he went West Brom, was it? It just kind of just stopped.
I mean, I don't know, because obviously when he went West Brom, I didn't really speak to him. I haven't spoken to him in ages. I know he's working at Chelsea, but yeah, sometimes it can get to you because managers, a lot of coaches in England, this is what I'm saying, a lot of people don't know what they're doing. So they copy the people that came before them. So if you are a Jerome Thomas, what happens is, you need to calm down, you're being too cocky, whatever. Actually, look at how you can harness that. And that's why I love Sir Alex Ferguson, because he was someone that Cantona didn't stick to the dress code. Cantona was coming late. But you know what? He let him get away with it because he knew he'll produce. And if he took that away from Cantona, he'll be taken away from his game, which was risky because at the end of the day, he would lose his other players. But because it worked, it worked. But this is what I'm saying. It comes back to the coach and saying, how can I harness that person's personality and use it for better, for good?
I was going to say, Arsenal. You support?
Yeah, so sport.
Okay, cool.
Unfortunately.
We were good.
I actually wanted to get your view on this. Ozil.
Yeah.
Are you an Ozil fan?
I love Ozil, man.
Okay. With Arsenal playing how we're playing, losing games and everything, Emery, I remember we spoke about this and you were saying if that's what Emery wants to do, then you're with it
you'll support
until you have it. Which is fair.
I want this guy in my corner for everything.
Which is
Sorry, Emery. No matter the hard times, he's there.
Yeah,
You know what? Because I'm on that side of the side of the fence now.
Which is fair. But do you think it's like, sorry to come away from you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you think it's fair to say that Emery is being a bit too stubborn? Because Ozil can't even get into the 16 right now. And they are struggling. And this is something that comes up on like my Twitter feed a lot because I back Ozil. And I'll continue to back him. But do you think Emery's missing a trick here, and he's just trying to just be a bit too stubborn.
It's tough because football fans, what we do is we kind of have an opinion based on limited information. So we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I love Ozil. And actually, when you look at Arsenal, it's like crying out for an Ozil to be playing in that team because there's no creativity coming from behind there. But at the same time, if he's not putting in the shift, and I don't mean defensively, because culturally, you know, it's like in England, if teams not doing well, that luxury play, get him out of it. Yeah. But I mean, putting in a shift creatively. So going forward, I think the manager's probably thinking, listen, I can't have you because I play an intense game and I can't have you doing that. And especially if you're not producing to that level, then it's not setting an example. This is my first season. I need to stamp my authority down. And not just in terms of discipline, but actually in terms of what I expect from players. So it's tough because I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Like, I love him. I think, personally, more important than Ozil, I think Arsenal missed Santi. So we need a creative player. But why the season turned last year is when he got injured,
that was it.
Ozil was playing further up. So you needed someone brave enough and clever enough to get on the ball in tight spaces, and also being able to open up and play forward. And take calculated risk. When he went, I thought like that was the missing link to Ozil. So then Ozil was getting criticised, but actually because he wasn't getting the ball to do what he was doing.
You sound like
I think he's been listening to them. He's caught up on all the pods. Gone.
But Santi was unbelievable because for me it was his hips. He wasn't quick, but he always beats players because he's so agile and can turn.
And he can go either way.
Yeah, and it's funny because as a kid, right, I remember when I played football, people used to be scared, intimidated of big players. Yeah. But for me, I wasn't big, but I had a good size. And my thing was, I love seeing big players because I'm thinking, you know what, I'll out-muscle you now, outplay you. When I saw the little players, I'm like, man, I hated the little agile ones. I'm like,
I hate playing against him.
Second?
Play against him.
Not anymore.
Get on your nerves.
I'm done.
Because he can go either way, left or right. What's your stronger foot?
Right.
Really?
You won't be able to tell them.
I'm naturally right-footed.
See? Yeah, nah. I used to hate those players as well. Like literally, because if I'm left-footed, well, I am left-footed. When I go to my right, I'm still going to use my left to go to my right. Yeah. But Santi, literally, you don't know which way.
No, he just played he played it like brilliant either side.
Lallana's like that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Lallana's wicked.
Lallana's like that.
Yeah. Joe Cole was like that. I had to man mark him in the FA Youth Cup, right? And to be fair, I think probably that's how I got my contract. It's funny because I did a job on him, right? But I've got the video of it. I actually put some clips of it on Insta a little while ago. But I never forget this. In say like the game was already finished. Say they were winning like say 3-1. And like in the 86th minute, he just went, Kev, gear 1, gear 5. And he just did this turn on me, boy, and he was gone. And it was like, if it was somebody else, I could have probably got near him, but he was so agile. But in saying that, this is why the guys who went Lillyshaw, they always had an edge on everybody else because they had so much training. When Jermaine came, and even Leon Britton, they had this sharpness.
I heard he was class, man.
Yeah, they were up there. They were a step ahead. Yeah. And also in terms of being agile. Britzy was crazy. When he came to West Ham, everyone was talking about Defoe in it. So I didn't even know about Britton. So obviously he just come from Arsenal. Well, he did turn down a contract to Arsenal. Then he went Chelsea, Villa, and then he came West Ham. And then he did this training session and he just blew. I didn't do the keep ball because I think I might have had a bit of a strain from the pre-season running. Everyone's going, oh my God, you see Britzy? Like, apparently he tore down the place.
Madness.
But that just tells you, why did he have to go into League Two and then eventually only have a small part? Yeah. If he was in Spain, he would have been valued on another level. Iniesta style, man.
Yeah. Do you think it's because of his size and here they just...
1,000%.
You think so?
Nothing to do with football ability. Look what he showed in the Premier League, right? He went from League Two to being at one stage one of the best centre midfielders in the Premier League. Yeah. He was easily one of the best. Look how Swansea at one stage were playing unbelievable football. And even Rio did a tweet saying about if he was Spanish, we would refer to him as Xavi or something. So my thing is why wasn't he playing at a higher level before?
It's because everything, especially back then, was just so... All the managers were just old school. So it was like you were saying about size. A lot of the times people go on trial. I know so many boys that would go on trial, smaller players. But as soon as the manager looks at him, it's like they've already made the mind up. You ain't getting signed. Doesn't matter what you do. Yeah. But you just haven't got that size.
Was Joe Cole that ridiculous though? Because he was small.
Joe Cole, no, he wasn't that small. He wasn't that small. No. But I wouldn't even say old school. I say it's lack of intelligence because now we've gone the other way. So there's thing called everyone's on maturation now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I even speak to the England scouts like, oh Kev, like we see a big player, maturation, So I'm like, hold on a minute.
What's maturation?
So basically, what they're saying is he's matured too
He's
quick.
already gone too fast.
But my thing is that
okay.
this player could be big for his age, but actually he could kick on and get even bigger, right? So then now, that's why, which don't get me wrong, is great. Now you're seeing a lot of small players playing for England and pushing through, but then now we're kind of casting aside the big players.
We're
And
not
then
balancing
in
it out.
10 years' time, what we'll then say is we'll class
We
it
need-
as I was old school.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not old
We
school,
need
it's
bigger
lack of
players again.
intelligence.
Yeah.
And this is why coaches need to back themselves. They need to say, you know what? That's a player.
That's a player.
This is why he's a good player. And go through dun. But at the moment in football, it's
Yeah.
for people who don't know what they're doing.
And it's a blueprint, isn't it?
No one knows
It's
what they're
kind
doing.
of weird.
It's
Yeah.
all these generalizations. Like I was on TalkSport and Mickey Gray was on there and he was talking about, Kev, you know what? I think you've complicated things, because I was talking about unconscious competence. So I goes, all right, Mick, what is it then?
Who said that? Mickey Gray?
Mickey Gray, listen to this. He said, I just think it's instinct. I said, Mick, what is instinct then? I goes, you've played at a high level. So I said, imagine this. So I
Yeah,
goes,
but you
imagine
can't
this.
sort
So this is, I said, Mick, when you get the ball, what goes on in your mind? So he goes, I go to give it to X player, say this midfielder. I said, okay, so if that option's cut off, what would you do? I would have another image in my mind. So I said, within the spaces of a second, you've constructed one image, you've got a sub image. So I goes, what is that process?
Yes.
I goes, if you want to label it as instinct, that's fine, but how does that even go about?
Yeah.
But because he is from that era where you can get away with your experience being a qualification,
Yeah.
but no one knows what they're talking about. That's my whole point.
Shout out Kevin.
No one knows.
Shout out Kevin George.
Have there been a lot of like squeaky bums reading this book? People looking at you thinking you don't know what he's talking about. Some uncomfortable truths in there.
I'll be honest with you, people in this world are not truthful in general. So they might have done that and they've not fed that back to me. Like for me, I've only had good feedback, but as I said, the world's kind of like that, innit? Like for me, if I know someone or whatever, I'll be like, you know what, I'm not really feeling that. If you don't like it, it's your business. I'm just being truthful, right? But so far, it's the feedback's been brilliant. I've not even announced it yet. Exclusive here still.
Hey, Counter-Attack exclusive.
Shout out Counter-Attack.
Korea have bought published translation rights, so it's going to be translated and sold
wicked.
across there.
Unreal,
Spain and
bro.
Holland are looking at it right now.
Wicked.
So it's just flying. The players are loving it. Gal Clichy did an Instagram post. It was brilliant. He was talking about unconscious competence, but he never explained himself. So that Delph and company just started hammering
ripping him apart.
It was hilarious. But I like that because I'm getting into the players' minds. They're reading it and they're like, "Raw, I can relate to this." So many players.
Do you know
are
what?
saying
That's
that.
the one thing I've never. Obviously, there's a lot of football books. There's a lot of things here, but that's the one thing I've heard consistently said about your book. Right, a lot of players, any player that who's come across it have said it's weird how on a page I've seen exactly what I've thought at some point when I've been on the pitch or I thought about something, and I think the fact that you come from that point of view is why I think when a player picks it up, it becomes a little bit like it becomes stuck to them like glue a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because even when I look at some of the like the Instagram posts and stuff like that, and people are writing some real sort of they're expressing themselves, and you almost kind of see the inner workings of like a professional athlete. Do you know what I mean?
Those long things on your post.
Now I try to now because before I just didn't have time. But then I remember seeing a Gary V post and he was like, "Social media is about socializing." So now I'm like,
Shout out Gary
flipping
V.
hell, man! I've got to start responding to all these messages. Sometimes it could be long, but I don't have time to post as much anymore, and I don't really want to. I find that I spent too much time on there. But yeah, I feel like it's in terms of providing information. I think it's needed, and it's like, for example, look at the books that are out there. Right, you've got the players who have done books, biographies, which are just rubbish. It's very safe. They just do it. They get a deal. They put a book out. You don't learn anything. Then you've got people like Bergkamp, Stillness and Speed, which is brilliant. It's brilliant.
Mad thing.
But
I need that back.
But what I think is that a lot of people miss the messages in that.
Yeah.
So he went to Inter Milan. It didn't work. Then he went to Arsenal and became a success.
Yeah,
Why?
sure.
Why didn't it work? Now you guys tell me, why didn't it work?
I think the time he went there, maybe he just wasn't the right fit. Maybe the management didn't really
I don't think he
really
didn't-
know
I don't-
what to
I
do
don't
to
think-
get the best out of him.
See this thing about being comfortable there. If I remember, because I remember when he first come to Arsenal, I remember he did Bergkamp didn't do many interviews, but he did. There was one where he talks about Inter Milan and he talks about
Who was his manager
like
at that
coming through.
I can't remember.
I think it was. I can't remember. It was two managers.
Yeah, he was
in
two
there.
because he was favoured, and then all of a sudden he weren't, and I don't think he never really settled, and I think it was one of those things that when he come to Arsenal, it was very much like I'm coming to a place where, again, I suppose it's freedom thing. Do you know what I mean? Where he could express himself, and he feels like he's in an environment where, don't forget, when he comes to Arsenal, he was the guy. He was the guy, right? And I think at Inter Milan at the time, I remember briefly the team.
He was stagnant for a while.
Yeah, but you could just see when you watch him at Ajax and then you watch him at Inter, you could just see there was just a massive difference.
But what do you think the reason is behind that though?
He says something in his book, but I can't remember.
Because for me, it's straightforward, and this is what I'm trying to say. Football clubs don't do enough research. He was playing for Ajax in a team in a country that was probably seen as the best attacking team and country in the world, right?
Yeah. Again,
Then you've gone to Italy, the most offensive in the world, and actually a club which is seen as the most offensive.
Yeah.
What was it called? Kanakio or something? The team, it was a style basically seen as the bolt.
Wow.
That's in reference to the defence. So you've gone to a team that have got the values and beliefs all geared around defending. And then they're trying to catch up with AC Milan, who've got Gullit, Van Basten and them, man.
Yeah.
So then now what they've done is they've gone and bought Wim Jonk and Bergkamp. So basically we're going to rival that, right?
Shout out Wim Jonk.
So then you're Bergkamp going into this team where you're playing further up the pitch. You've got less focus as a team defensively. So you're getting the ball higher up the pitch. When you get the ball, you've got more options, which means, yes, you can create assists, or defender marking is thinking, all right, half my mind's on you and half my mind's there. So I'm divided. Whereas in Italy, he's playing more defensively. So he's away from the goal. So he's then using more energy to get up there. And when he does, there's no one there. And he's the sole purpose, sole focus of that defender. So then it's a clash of values and beliefs, right? So then when we see these players get transferred for big money and then they're seen as a flop, people then, because they don't know any depth to it, what they say is, I wasn't that good, or, you know what, this league's too much for
That's
him.
what I'm saying. It's the
Because
culture.
then-
There's a culture thing.
because then what can happen then is like, it doesn't challenge us to know that actually we just don't know. You know, instead, what we can do is, our legs have gone. We just literally dismiss it. It happens all the time. And then so he's then gone from Inter to Arsenal, who then actually,
The complete opposite.
same beliefs as Ajax. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
So what is that?
Yeah.
Thierry Henry. These stories, there's so many stories.
From Monaco to
And so if we pay attention to the people get lost in football.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the people.
Wicked.
So, Torres, Fernando,
Yeah.
Liverpool, Chelsea, isn't it?
would you say? No, because he was.
No, he was dead before he left. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
answer that one.
So him.
I don't know why Chelsea spent that money. I don't get it.
Because that's one of the mysteries for me, you know, like, because everyone always says that Chelsea was rubbish, but like you said, for a good half the season, he was just shocking, and I just don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like his touch went, like, he couldn't finish.
Something's
anything.
happened. He probably talk about it when he stops playing. Like, I'm very interested in what happened there. But I just don't know. Like, certain people, even Shevchenko was the same. It was like, at first, I kind of made excuses for him because I'm thinking, hold on a minute. He went from playing with Pirlo, Seedorf and Kaká to Lampard, Essien. And what you have to look at is like, the Chelsea team were more functional, whereas the AC Milan players, he had were more creative.
It was aggressive,
and his movement is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And so I don't know what it is. I don't think it's as straightforward in terms of the whole Bergkamp and, as I was saying, Thierry situation. But some are more complex and you won't know until you're in that space.
Yeah.
But what we can't do is, and what football's done for so many years, is just simplify these problems or successes, because actually there's a lot more depth to that.
But just quickly, it's funny you mentioned that Chelsea team, because don't forget that Chelsea team had Kesman, who for me was, again, similar. He came from, obviously, don't get me wrong, he came from Holland. Didn't really quite work. You had Crespo. He came from Italy, and in that Chelsea team, it potentially should have worked. But again,
Well, do you know what? Crespo's got 1 in 2. You know that, right?
Didn't.
He's got 1 in 2 at Chelsea.
Did he?
Yeah, he got 1 in 2, but he was seen as a flop. But he had personal issues. He had some personal stuff going on with his family. So
I thought it was alright at Chelsea.
that wasn't in the
but when you
press.
see about,
I thought it was alright.
do you know what it is? When you look at
because
them,
it's Crespo, it's like he did.
Yeah,
if it was
yeah.
somebody
The peak,
else,
yeah,
because it's
he
Crespo,
would've done
people
alright.
expected more. Yeah,
Yeah,
but he had some stuff with his family. So. And Milan and Chelsea completely different.
So
Like, look,
different.
listen, you play for Milan, you get a phone, right? So you're left back. I'm gonna ring you. I'll pick up the phone. I press number 3. Yeah, Lam, what's going on? Like they look after you, next level. During those times, you go Chelsea, you're getting some rundown breader and this minibus picking you up. Like it's the next level. Like when obviously Chelsea is different now.
Yeah, very
But I'm
different.
saying there's so much change and we don't take consideration in terms of adaptation, new language. difference in standards. And as I said, he had family problems going on as well. So I think in terms of all of that, I think he was brilliant. But the fans and other people don't take that into consideration. And saying that, a part of me thinks, you know what, they don't know any better.
They don't know.
But the managers should.
They don't.
The managers should, and they don't.
But the thing is, the managers by right should through management. But like you're saying, it's so evident that a lot of managers are just it's all about status quo, and it's all about just trying to inch it better than the man before him. But and this is what I'm saying, and this is where I think sometimes there's a lack of the word you used before was agility. Is the lack of being agile in football. I don't think football's agile at all. I think football's actually, when you think about it, I think it's actually a very static and very sort of slow moving in terms of its thought process kind of sport. When you look at the advancements that people have made in the same amount of time in like American football and basketball and stuff like that, football's way behind in terms of like the way that, you know, when you talk about Wenger bringing in like a lot of that scientific stuff, a lot of these other sports, it's you know.
There's so many ways I want to go with this. First of all, let's look at it like this, right? This is how backwards football is, and especially in England. Wenger came to England from the Japanese league, right?
Yeah.
And he reduced the sugar in the diet of the Arsenal players, and he encouraged them to stretch. And we refer to him as the professor.
Can you imagine?
Look how basic that is. That wasn't the 60s.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
The stretch.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. That's it. That's how you had the level of groupthink in this country in football is embarrassing, right? That's the first one. But secondly, also, we've got an underground of coaches on the underground, literally, who think differently. They're not in the system, maybe one or two, but I guarantee there's a definitely change happening right now. And one of them actually is at a pro club who I mentioned before, and he's in the book quite a lot, Michael Beale, is that Michael Beale's career started at Chelsea as a coach. Well, he's a player. We could play at Charlton Youth Academy and whatnot. Chelsea, went to Liverpool, Brendan Rodgers, and then he got a move to Sao Paulo to be assistant manager, right? But how he got that move was hardly anything to do with football, right? His sessions were good, but Roberto Firmino, Lucas Leiva and Coutinho was sitting down having dinner with the Sao Paulo manager, and they were talking about Michael. And everything was about how he was and how he made them feel.
Yeah.
And then he ends up getting the assistant manager job at Sao Paulo.
Is he still over there now?
No, so now
he's at Rangers,
so what happened was he's at Rangers. So what happens, he ended up going back to Liverpool in terms of, it didn't really pan out how he planned, so he left. And then because of his name, and again, Steven Gerrard approached him and he said to me, he said, you know what, Kev, to be fair, part of me was like, obviously he speaks to Stevie, but not like that. So he's wondering what made him approach him to be the assistant. But because of his name within football, within Liverpool, Steve was like, everyone was like, you need to have this guy. So there are definitely coaches out there. You see quite a few on like social and stuff in terms of their passion and actually taking the player into consideration. The only gripe that I have with it is I feel like everyone thinks they know it all. And I think at the moment it's like,
there's no it's fixed mindsets, isn't it?
So you get platforms with wonder kids and that, and it's people that watch clips online and they make judgments and
nonsense.
And my thing is I always say that we don't know anything, and that opens you up to learning more. So I will have an opinion, but like I said earlier, it's like Torres. I don't know what happened with him. Yes, he was dead. I can make that judgment, but I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's just there's so many things that happen that we don't have the access.
Do you think clubs should be encouraged to have more? What's it? Psychiatrists? Is that the word?
Psychologists.
Psychologists. What's the difference between psychiatrists and psychologists?
Psychiatrists more drugs related. Psychologists are more to do with like humanistic approach.
Okay.
But you've got welfare officers and psychologists at clubs already. But one, it's a case of trust because the players think, okay, you're employed by the club. Can I trust you?
Yeah. What am I doing?
First thing. Yeah. Secondly, the same skills needed on the football pitch is needed by club staff. So when I go into a club, welfare officer might say, Kev, this is what's going on. When I go in there, I realise actually it's probably that or worse. And that welfare officer's not said anything to probably the gaffer who's causing the problem.
Precisely.
Because they may be worried about their job or they're just shook.
Yeah.
But my thing is you get more respect like that.
Yeah.
For me, I challenge a lot of people. And for me, I've got a lot of respect because of it. Otherwise, I bring no value.
So you're coming you're disturbing the industry.
I don't think
disturbing the market.
I'm not saying you. Yeah. I'm just saying general, that whole disturbing.
Disturbing,
I don't think that can
disrupting is what we call it. Actually.
Yeah, sorry. With the way football's going, it's so short term.
Yeah,
that I don't know if that approach is the right approach, but I don't think people have time for that approach anymore. Because unless a manager's got time to really implement their style and their ethos in the club, You know, they don't have time for all of these.
And I think that's what you're up against. Though,
No, but you can. So my thing is this, right? It's not a case of always long-term investment. If I'm coaching you guys, everything I do will be taking you into consideration. So I'm with you anyway.
Yeah.
And so short-term, if I don't, it's going against me. So my overall objective, I'm not going to achieve that. And then there's a player I know, I've seen play over the years, who's like 19 now, who plays for England, plays for a Premier League team, should be worth 50 million, and he's probably going to disappear off the face of the earth, purely based on family kind of seeing him as a pension and having behavioural problems and all that stuff, and the club being aware of it and not doing enough.
Wow.
So my thing is actually, football must have money to just burn, because I always say forget welfare, because I used to try and push that to people, but I know they don't care, and it's a business. So I'm like, okay, we know that, but from a business perspective, it don't make sense. So, I don't know.
Mad.
This book,
Wow.
Yeah.
what are you hoping to gain from it? Is there another one coming up after this?
So basically, I've started another book, but it's not anything to do with football. Do you know, I'll just say anyway, it's a mental health book, because my thing is, at the moment, we're having a conversation, but we're miseducating people. So when we talk about mental health, we talk about mental illness. Even my wife says, say someone's got a mental illness, she says, I've got mental health. I said, listen, babe, I'm a psychotherapist. This is embarrassing for me. You can't be doing that. So I want to do that. I want to educate people on mental health, but also make it so that everybody understands how it plays out daily in our lives, and also make it interesting. Because when I'm picking up books, I am bored as hell when I'm reading anything around behavior and psychology. It's like there's literally a handful of books that I actually enjoy reading. So I want to write. Well, I've started writing the book already, but I want to create something where people can read it and relate to it, whether it be in their personal relationships and see how it affects their relationships, whether it's the youths on road and actually realizing that actually I'm not a bad man, but the reason why I'm on road is because of, you know what, because of self-esteem, and it's because, you know what, I don't really get time invested in me at home, and actually because I'm strong, and when I do lick a man down,
I feel good about it.
I've got an audience there. People make me feel good, so I'm going to keep doing that. And so we're looking at low-level stuff, but then the other end of the spectrum around the depression, but it's not depression and anxiety. Sometimes it could be around self-esteem stuff. And that's why when I worked in prison, men were in prison because of their childhood.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
The link was clear there.
Yeah, and then you've got, partners who are insecure and they literally just ruin their own relationship. They just ruin it. And it's like they're carrying stuff from their past and they don't know how to let it go.
Kevin George.
So I'm definitely going to do another Soccology. My publisher said to me that you can't do a second one. This is how the industry goes. So I'm going to do another football book. Not the same. But I'm almost going to hone in on one area for the whole book, because really every chapter could be a book in itself. So I'm going to hone in one area, and there's some big hitters lined up, boy. Yeah.
Just running by the podcast.
Wicked.
Lined up.
How much of because on a personal note, I'm kind of doing something away from my actual job as an accountant. Imagine that. And like one thing that I might struggle with is belief in actually doing it. Like how much satisfaction do you get from that? Was there ever a time when you was going to do it where you thought, you know what, writing a book, man? Because to me, writing a book is mad difficult. The thought of writing a book. How much did you struggle with that? And then when you actually did it, were you like, I can't believe it? How much satisfaction did it bring? And how hard was it to stay motivated for it?
When I started it, in January, I didn't need any motivation. I was so driven. When I get my head on something, I'm so driven to do it. I was so satisfied when it was done. Part of self-criticism is I don't enjoy my good times enough because I'm always thinking the next thing. So like the fact that now this book's going to go in a vault to preserve British literature, meaning that, and I said this to one of the guys, I've not made an announcement on this either, another exclusive, bloop.
And we're flying.
But I was saying, I said as a joke to someone, I said, listen, you're going to live forever. That's mad. So if there's like a bomb that wipes out the whole country, you've got a vault to protect British literature. That is going to be in there.
That's phenomenal.
So things like that, I'm like, rah, that's mad. And so I'm so happy, but also I look at my daughter and I think, do you know what? Like her dad's an author. That's madness. So already I want to do a kid's book, and I'm saying, I'm going to wait till she's older, I'm going to do it with her.
Do you suddenly just get so many like ideas?
Everything's a book now. Listen, I've got so many ideas. I'm going to be writing. I'm just going to be doing books as whatever I'm doing, whatever projects, whatever. I'm always going to be doing books. So for me, it's crazy because I say to people, I left school with 3 A to C's. I went in to be a professional football player. I was a player on Dream Team, body doubling for Ronaldo and Thierry Henry, advising teachers how to run their lessons, advising head teachers how to run their school. I've written a book that's been bought, translation rights are being bought everywhere. I'm doing all these things because, and for me, it's like, I always want to be the best. I'm so competitive with myself and other people. And so my motivation is just, when I look back on life, I can look back and say, you know what, man, I'm happy I did that. Like, I look back on so many things I've done, I'm like, yeah, I didn't waste my life. I look at other people who live by constraints of their culture or other people, and that will kill me. Do you know what I'm saying? So my thing is it's not even really about the book, if I'm being honest. Football was not really about football.
Yeah.
It's about me just living my best life, being happy and doing living a life of choice. And that's it.
No, I rate that.
Powerful, man.
Tremendous.
I know, do you know what I mean?
Powerful,
Proper way
powerful
to
stuff.
end
Hey,
that.
Brent looks infatuated. That's just staring.
When he said that he basically committed his words to forever.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what got me as
crazy.
well. So I was there thinking,
Because I just think of legacy. I was like, I don't want to just be, okay, I've got my daughter, okay, next, she's going to have kids and whatever. What else can I leave here? My grandkids now can be like, you know what? My granddad done that book. Do you know what I'm saying? That's always going to be, it's always going to be around.
yeah, it's legacy, isn't it? Yeah.
No, that's absolutely crazy, man.
Mad.
But
That's the right book,
before
man.
we wrap up this one, who's taking the league? We have to ask this.
That's tough, you know. But I think Man City will take it.
That's right.
It's a toughie, but because they've got the Champions League, right?
Yeah.
But they've got the squad to handle it, and they've got the mindset. They've got winners.
They've won it before.
And the thing is with Liverpool is that not only do they not have people who've they've got like serial winners, but they've got the anxiety from the fans passed onto them. Like,
I've been saying
it's a big thing for us. You got to win it.
I've been saying this about
and
Liverpool
so
fans,
it's a lot to carry. But at the same time, they don't have really the seriousness of other stuff. Like, they're kind of making this their main focus. But if I had to put my money on someone, I'll go with City.
Go with City. Is Pep your favourite manager or Mourinho? Was it?
No, Mourinho's my favourite. I think it's Pep. And you know what I love? I love Pep. I love people who are just like...
smart.
yeah, nostrils like flaring.
I like him.
But I love Pep. But more importantly, his story. So I wrote about this in the book, right? So growing up as a kid, it's like if you did something with flair, people are like, who do you think you are, Ronaldo? And we always kind of like put people in boxes, right? And benignly told, like, in a way, flair or excellence was from other countries. But what I love is that Pep's doing this football with Man City, and 115 years ago, it actually, if you trace it back, it started at City with a guy who couldn't break into the first team. He was in their academy, then played for a team called Brompton, which is now known as Gillingham, then went to coach in Switzerland, then it was meant to go to Germany. This is how history works out. It's so many kind of mini miracles happen. It was meant to go and coach Germany, but World War II, I think it was, stopped that. So then he went to Ajax, who won nothing, right? Coached Ajax, had this ethos about having the same system throughout the academy to the first team. He would even coach with the academy as well.
This sounds like
and his name was called John Jack Reynolds, he's an Englishman, right? Then he had a team of, that's beginning of Cruyff. I'm getting to it, yeah. So then John Jack Reynolds then was coaching Rinus Michels and had another English coach called Vic Buckingham. Rinus Michels then, when retired, took on John Jack Reynolds' kind of ethos and kind of added to it. So then obviously Cruyff, who was a local and then ended up playing in the academy, had Vic Buckingham in the academy and working with the first team. So it was almost like natural transition. The Ajax way was always going through. Then he got in the first team playing with Rinus Michels. Rinus was very much on intensity and the art of play. So it wasn't just the beautiful stuff. That's why when Pep was at Barca, when I used to see like David Villa, Messi and that, people used to talk about the football, but when I used to see how they used to dust man down defensively, I'm like, raw.
Incredible, yeah.
And that's what that was about. So then Rinus went to obviously Barca, brought Cruyff there, whatnot. Cruyff became manager. And that's why even Cruyff, what I love is he was just a guy from the ends. Like literally, he had a column just badding up Ajax, talking about football, but the art, because he was so passionate. He was a consultant at Barcelona. He was a mentor to Pep, not even officially as a job, just a mentor. It was all about the art. There's so many stories of him coming off the bench, out the stand to go and sit on the bench during an Ajax game because he wasn't happy with what was going on.
Madness.
So then it feeds off to the next person, Pep. So then Pep was brought up because in the academy coming through, who was the manager? Cruyff.
Yeah.
So then obviously then he goes to Man City. Now look at all of that. Look at that's come full circle. And it's what he's doing. So for me, the stories are amazing, but also it's like
Where do we find that story? Because I need to.
It's in the book, and then obviously what you can do is your best bet is
All right, buy the book.
But when you look in the book, you could just look up stuff online. Like you'll see bits everywhere. So you'll see a bit of a story here, a bit of story there. So you can Google someone like John Jack Reynolds, Google Vic Buckingham, Google Renus Michel. Renus Michel's book.
I know Renus Michel.
Brilliant. I haven't finished reading it. Brilliant book. I'm trying to think. You just have to do some searches online, man.
Do this one. Wait, where's this book? This one. This book talks about it.
Oh, you read this as well?
Yeah.
What's this called?
It's just about
Brilliant
Dutch
Orange.
football.
That was a book.
Yeah, that one.
The
What's that one,
neurotic
sorry?
It's
genius.
called
Brilliant Orange.
neurotic this one.
Oh, I've got it. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But it goes through all of what you were saying. That's why it was beautiful just to sit there.
So, but basically, and this is why. So, in the book, as I said, every chapter can be a book on its own. But what I want to do is, I want players and coaches and parents to read that book, and not to take away and think, "Oh my God, I've learned so much." That's it. It's to say, "Wow, that's a seed." Now I'm going to look at the game differently because traditionally, what we do is we say, "Okay, that's football."
So-
We accept so much in football that we won't accept outside of football.
Agreed.
And what
Yeah,
I'm saying is
definitely,
actually, no. This is the same. It's the same. Look, here's the examples. I got the guy from KPMG. Got nothing to do with football. He's just talking about leadership. He's a senior partner for years at the highest, one of the biggest firms. And he's talking about the similar things that Quentin Fortune is talking about when he talks about Alex Ferguson.
Madness.
So it's the same
Get the
thing.
book, guys. Get the book. Soccology.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy that
Where
tonight.
can we
still.
where can we find Kevin? Where can we find
I'm
Kevin?
gonna buy it and give it away.
Okay.
So
Do you want to buy me one as well?
I'll buy two. Put one in your pocket. Yeah.
I didn't even go to me, but yeah.
What?
Nah.
Don't you see like sales when they?
No, because it's the publisher. When I self-publish, yes, but because of the publisher, every quarter I know how many it's sold, and then they do the percentages and that. But I haven't reached the first quarter yet, so it's coming soon though.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But yeah, definitely get one. Get one to add to your collection, and we'll
Definitely
give one
gonna
away.
get one tonight.
How we'll give it away? We'll just look at the Insta.
Nah,
I mean, I'm forever giving stuff
We're thinking
away.
about
I forgot
live
I gave the
shows,
Chano
though.
Samba one too.
we're thinking about a live show at some point this year. But
Yeah.
We're thinking
We'll have another live show. We do live shows basically.
Okay.
So who have we had on our live shows? We've had Anton Ferdinand, Jermaine Defoe.
is he?
So you talk about Jermaine Defoe with Izzy.
I know Izzy,
He
man.
played there, innit?
Izzy was a serious player, you know.
Everyone says that.
Oh, that boy was brilliant. He was brilliant. You know what? There's a story. Funny enough, it's kind of not really to do with him, but it is to do with him. There was a guy lying about having a contract. Sorry, Bertie, but yeah, Bertie Brayley was a goal scorer at West Ham. Like always scores goal for fun, innit? And I never forget where I think Tony Carr called a meeting. He was like, "Listen, no one's got a pro contract in there except Izzy," because that's what you know. Izzy was just a bad man. Like he played so in his comfort zone. It was just too easy for him. It was too easy. But I think did he play in the first team? I know he was on the bench at Old Trafford, but he said he was too scared to go on.
I don't think he played.
Yeah, he didn't play.
I think he
Mad
just
injury.
was on the
Izzy was
bench.
unbelievable, man. I like him, top man as
Shout
well.
Izzy, but we're going to get him back on.
But here's a question:
We're
then.
gonna
So
get
you've
him
had those live shows, and I want you two guys to be open and honest, transparent, right? What have you got from those people that have been on there?
Nah, we've got some good insight.
We've got some great insight, some content.
Yeah, into like what life is really like behind the glitz and glamour of football. We had Leon McKenzie come and talk about mental health.
Mental health, yeah, that was
But
deep.
tell me what you've learned though. So what did you learn specifically?
Me personally, I've learned that you can't just always look at what you see on TV, and there's much more behind. And I play football, but what they have to deal with on that level. So Leon McKenzie spoke about his sister committing suicide, but then he still has to, the show must go on.
Yeah.
And he's still got to. And for me, I'm not gonna lie. If God forbid that happens to me, I'm calling up my manager and be like, "Listen, I'm not." playing." But for him, it was like the show must go on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's still getting slated in the papers, but the show must go on.
Did he? But here's a question. I know that story, but I didn't ask Leon. But I'd be interested to know if he felt that he needed to play, because it'd be interesting if he said to his gaffer, "You know what? My sister obviously took her own life. I don't feel up to it." The gaffer might have been like, "Cool, you know what? Take your time." Like, I don't know. So it'd be something I'll ask Leon. But maybe he just felt, because there is that thing of, "Oh, do you know what? I've got to be there."
I've got to
But
be there.
actually, you could take that step away, and that goes back to in football. You kind of feel like you need to be there because in a way you can't show weakness. It can come from other things. But the reason why I ask specifically is because, as I said, I feel the conversations in football could be more, and we don't talk about it in depth. And
I think you're kind of right, because it's like we just, even like when I was like researching, it's researching kind of the stuff that you know.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just tell me about what you've done But I know it because I've researched it. But you're just telling some people who don't know. Yeah, I was here for a bit, and then I went here, and then I scored goals here, and then I done this.
There you go. And then how do we teach the kids? And the reason why I say specifically is because the kids get a tough time, right? So when probably after I came through, I remember hearing Daps saying, "Oh, you know what? The kids nowadays, they just play computer games and whatever." So in my mind now, I'm thinking, okay, so what about the kids who are at La Masia in Barcelona?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So then now we're just kind of dashing responsibility somewhere else, right? And then so I look at all the things about development and kids, and I look at that now they're getting criticised for other reasons, but I think to myself, they don't love the game. They're looking for Instagram fame, or they're looking for the money they can get. So I'm thinking to myself, okay. So people say, oh, when we was younger, we wanted it. But I thought when we were younger, we had so many hours when no adults were around.
Yeah.
So we were allowed to fall in love first. People want passion before love. It don't happen. So I'm on the streets with my boys and they're hammering me. Kev, you got nuts. And I'm vexed and I want to get them back. And then we're creating our own rules and FA knockouts and we're out till late. But why aren't kids doing that anymore? Because parents are scared. So now they say you can't go out. So that means the ones who can go out, there's no one to play out with anyway. So that means how can I develop love? So then what the parents are doing is putting them in a football club with a coach. And the coach is being busy putting all these cones everywhere because they want to look like they're doing something. And then unfortunately, it's like there's restriction. It's
not fun.
I can't love it.
Yeah.
And so then what happens is if I do break into the system, it's always been a job. That's enough, by the way.
And this is part of the reason why I always say, like, you see this football thing, you have to, I couldn't echo what you're saying more. You have to learn the love. You have to understand the love of the game, and that's why.
But you don't understand it, Lam. You don't. You know what it is? You have to fall in love. Like, listen, it's like me when you meet your missus. I say, "Oh, you got to learn to love her." Like that ain't happening.
No,
you go on a date. There's certain things that she just gets you. And you know what it is? It just naturally. Sometimes you think, flipping, how did we get here? Like, I want to marry this woman. That's how it. That's football. That's football. And the problem we have now is like we do this to the kids, and yes, football is a game and it's a job. Everybody else adds their little bits on top, but it's nothing more than that, right?
Agreed.
And then so what we do now is we do this to the kids. They go in the system and they treat it more like a job than anybody else, and rightly so because they're getting treated like commodities more than any other time.
Which they are.
And then we say, oh yeah, they don't love it. And we start hammering them, and then they're flipping disenfranchised. So I'd say that online. Don't know if you guys blur that out, but and then we kind of criticize them, and then we wonder why that they might screw up their face or not listen to us. Do you know what I'm saying? So I always say, if there's a problem, if the kids are doing great, it's because of us. And if they're not doing great, it's also because of us. Yeah. Because it's like a farmer blaming its crop. We've got to set the environment for them to flourish, right?
Mad.
So I'll leave it there.
It's quite surprising that you have no interest in managing or coaching.
Mate,
even like
my
being
passion's
part
in
of a
people.
club.
The levels would be different.
My passion's in people. Like football for me, I enjoy it. I've got loads of contacts in the game and I like being in there. I love playing it. But my passion for people overrides football. And I think that if I was a coach, there's going to be more emphasis at times on 3 points. And that doesn't fit in with my values. So I can work with what I do in the clubs. I can even work for a club, but not as a coach. But my remit will always have to be about the person.
Yeah.
No, I hear that still. Hey, Kev. Love that. Thank you, man.
That was worth that one.
I'm going to have to message you a few things. I need to pick your brain on a few bits still.
Okay. Cool.
You know what? Whenever Spence is sitting there just looking.
He's listening.
He's listening.
He's engrossed.
Yeah. I'm surprised in your DMs tomorrow.
Tonight. Late tonight.
Hey, no naked pics though.
No.
I like what you said about Pep.
Just naked with the book there.
But yeah, guys, before I go, I just want to mention Heat and Lean, food and beverage company. They're a meal prep company, nationwide deliveries.
Sponsors.
And no, not even. I'm just bigging them up.
Wait. Before you say that, by the way, is there like a time limit on this?
No.
Listen, we need to talk about one more thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah? Because no, this is like a chapter in the book which is like close to my heart, right?
Go on.
So basically, I've got a chapter called Player Premium.
Okay.
So the reason why I've done this chapter is when I worked in schools, there's something called Pupil Premium.
Yeah.
You guys know about that, right?
With the funding that they get for the kids.
Yeah. So so like a school, I know this isn't for all schools, but you get a certain amount per child, which is free school meals. So if like one school could get like 300 grand a year, right? That's how much money's in it. So to help this kid with regards to their behavior problems or raising attainment, that's what that fund's for. So the school have to creatively use that money to kind of get them up to speed. Now, a lot of schools, what they also have to do is show on their website where they spend that money. And it's quite embarrassing that they have no ideas and it just gets put in nonsense. But the reason why I wanted to mention this is because I feel like there's a lot of players who get targeted. So what I mean by that is clubs actually set up satellite centres in a city where you got players coming from the hood because their what's the word I'm looking for? Their characteristics flourish in football, being brave, courageous, facing fear, right?
South London's hot for that. Right?
Hotbed.
Yeah.
So what happens is clubs acknowledge that, but they don't acknowledge how the players are vulnerable. So what will happen is we can see that, like that, he's got that bit between the teeth, he's a bit aggressive and all of that. But then when it spills out into other areas, it's like, sort yourself out. You've got one more chance. Yeah. So with football, it's almost like they would bully you into submission and it's worked. But then I think when you got to the stages of, say, the Ravel Morrisons and the now Rangers, there was no interventions in place.
Yeah.
So whereas Sir Alex didn't know what to do with Ravel because he was kind of off the charts, but Ravel didn't kind of magically become this person. He was always that person. And I think that maybe Man United used the power of Man United, hoping that dangling the career and thinking that will help him.
Yeah.
But actually, he had other stuff going on. And I feel that football fails a lot of kids. So what I done is in this chapter, Player Premium, I start the story with basically one of my neighbours putting a gun to one of my best friends' heads outside my house.
Is this a true story?
True story, yeah. So, so what I do is I talk about that because, first of all, I talk about how the next day I found out my friend was talking to my neighbour. So I'm like, dissing him. How you chatting to the bro after you put a gun to your head? Right, that's how but then I look back now, I'm like, raw. That was so normal to me that I'm not even like, oh, you're right, whatever. I'm more thinking, how you chatting to this brother? So, but also for people to understand the kind of kids that are going into the system, like you can have a gun put to your head, then you're in training the next day. So, in this chapter, what I try to do is to humanize the player and say, okay, you might see something or see it as an attitude, but this is what the player's going through. So then I speak about, I give examples as like Ibrahimovic is from the ghetto and he's proud.
Yeah,
he's like, also I'm a ghetto player and whatnot. But then Moses Ashikodi, and I know Moses, and I didn't know his story. So he's famed for the knife incident at Millwall.
Yeah.
But what people don't know is that when he came to England as a 7-year-old, his brother went prison. So he had no family in this country. So you're a 7-year-old. By the time he's 9, he was earning $250 a week on road at 9. Then he's kicking ball with the olders. I'm not going to go into too much of it because I don't want to spoil it. It's in the book. But what I will say is that what Moses lacked was attachment. So when you look at that, there's no place to really feel safe. We take for granted when we had parents, but one who were always there, always funding stuff for us. But what it was is they made us feel safe. When you're you don't have that. So your safety is either, the hood youths around you, and also your self-defense. Like if man's gonna disrespect me, I'm gonna deal with them. So I don't have to have that fear. My safety is secure. So then when Moses obviously went into football, he got kind of faced with a situation where that kicked in. So what my issue was with that was that there was no support from Millwall, knowing his background. Then that incident ruined his whole career. Even though he went on to other clubs, and I'm not going to explain how, but it ruined his career in the long term. So then what I do is I come out of football and then speak about Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson had no attachment either.
Yeah.
So he's basically, people used to call him a sissy because he hung around with his sister. He was calling him fat because he was chubby. Because of that, his self-esteem was extremely low. He was breaking in homes by 10.
Yeah.
He was taking coke by 11. Then when he got a bit older, what he realised is he met Customato.
Yeah.
Who then said, you're this, you're that, like giving compliments. He thought Customato was gay because he never had compliments before. Yeah. So then he formed an attachment with Cuss and he made him feel he was something. He made him read philosophy. Mike Tyson was failing in school, but he's studying philosophy. He's researching boxers. He's looking up Jack Johnson and wearing all black because of Jack Johnson. Yeah. So when people are trying to align him with Ali, he's like, no, because he's charming. So you still get a reminder of how he saw himself. But then when Cuss died, his attachment died, and then he went off the rails. And you see those crazy interviews. Yeah. So then people form these judgments, but they don't realise there's such a deeper level to it. So I bounce around and show about how Venus and Serena, again, how the dad basically moved from Long Beach to Compton. He said the best grew up in the hood. So he actually made a choice to do that. Yeah. So again, you'll read more about that in the book. But what I'm trying to say is that football benefits from the hood, but it doesn't actually look after it. It will chew them up, dash them out. But we have to acknowledge that it produces the best players. Rooney,
Yeah, it's
Liverpool
from the
cops,
ends.
That's a
It's
madness.
from the
It's a
ends,
madness
yeah.
there. Van Persie was knocking at
Van Persie,
people on the pitch
yeah.
at Feyenoord.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if you don't grow up,
Oh, yeah.
so if you don't grow
Van
up, you're
Persie was
screwed.
Rotterdam,
But
innit?
there's no support there, so that's
Yeah.
why it was good. I had people like Bradley Wright Phillips talking about going up in broccoli as a broccoli you, and other people, when it's just showing like, listen, I've played with players who are in prison right now. You know, and I was doing a session in Wandsworth, and I can say his name because it was in the papers. Nathan Ashton, who was at Charlton, played for England, played in the Premier League for Charlton and Fulham, and he's only 31. He's in prison, got about another 5 years to do. So it's like football's failing these kids basically. But that's like my main chapter. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I could talk about all the chapters anyway. I know I'm gonna go to another one because I love talking about this stuff. Just quickly, unconscious competence, massive thing, decision making. It's amazing that you can. I list 18 things that goes through a player's mind within the space of 3 seconds, right? So if you're playing centre midfield and your fullback's got the ball, all the things you got to think about, right? I knew straight away, as soon as that player's got his head up, I'm going to try and call for it and get his attention. So it's a little detail. So I'm waiting for him to get his head up. If he's not, I'm not going to move or bring any attention to my opponent. I need to wait till he's got his head up. And that's when I'm relying on him to have the intelligence and the confidence to play it quick,
To see it.
right?
Yeah.
So then there's that. Then I have to open up my body. Then I have to look and make 1 option, 2 options, 3 options. I need 3 options in my mind, right? So I've got to have my sub options. Then I've got to think about which foot I'm going to control the ball with. What kind of touch am I going to do? Am I going to have it tight? Am I going to have it out of my feet? Which foot am I going to... I don't know if I said which foot am I going to use. But then this is as the ball's now travelling to me. But the thing is, the picture then changes again.
Yeah, of course.
So then I've got to reshuffle.
Yeah, you got.
One option's gone. I need to make another sub option.
Yeah.
Yeah, is someone
I was-
coming up my ass? Do I
So
have to
now
get my arm
I
out?
was going to have a touch tight. I might have to have it out of my feet.
Yeah.
So this is the intelligence of a footballer, but no one breaks it down to this depth.
Wow.
This is with every half second that changes.
Okay, on that,
Madness.
you know, earlier on you said,
Madness.
was it Mickey Gray? You said,
Mickey Gray said it.
was it him that you said is
On
instinct?
TalkSport.
Yep.
Because all of this happens in such a short space of time.
Yep.
Surely there's got to be an element of it which is instinct.
It never is instinct. And I'll tell you why. Because do you drive?
Yeah.
All right. So imagine this. When you get in a car, right? You do your driving lessons. You get in and like steering wheel, clutch, handbrake, whatever, right? Your head is in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your head is in that car. As lessons progress, you can see further and further.
Yeah.
Now you're driving for years. Do you know what you do? Your head's not even in the car. Your head's up the street. Oh, there's traffic. You know,
You're making
I'm
so
taking
many,
this turn.
so many
So-
decisions, innit?
Exactly. So what you do is you pass that to your unconscious mind. You know
Yeah.
it to the stage where if there's a route that you take regular, you could even daydream and still get to your
Do
destination.
you know
Have you
what?
done that before?
That's so
Yeah.
true. I have.
So exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not instinct, it's learned behavior. It's even the fact that we are able to walk without thinking about it. As a kid, same thing. You stand up, you're coordinating all these muscles, and then you stand up, your parents start high-fiving, yeah, look, he stood up. What happens? You look around, your focus is now from here to there. You sit down again. As you get older, what happens? Look how we just walk. We all walk here. We don't even think about it.
So are we saying that, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, by the way. Are we saying that football is all learned behavior? Like there's nothing about it that's instinct.
It's not. I'm not saying it's instinct. It's about looking at the conscious mind and the unconscious mind.
Yeah.
So you can't play all unconsciously. You can't do that. But what the problem? I'm not just saying not the problem, but a lot of the top players have the ability to play at the right time consciously. So what I mean by that is, if I can pass a lot of the stuff, the load to my unconscious mind, which can actually take care of most, people change, but the general argument is 80% of your performance in life in general is unconscious, right? So if I can pass that all back, when it comes to making a conscious decision of what's happening in real time, I'm free.
Yeah.
So
Snap back into
we
it.
all know kids who have players, that we've played with who've got unbelievable feet, talent, quick.
D-Mac.
But what happens is now, but not even D Mac because he's a top player. But what happens is that they are so much playing consciously, and what I mean by is focusing on the ball and focusing on this. And they don't know what's going on.
Missing everything else.
So
Yeah,
unconsciously,
yeah.
what you know, when you can see a top player is that the ball's coming, they don't even look at the ball. They're looking elsewhere. They know the ball's coming there. They can literally predict the trajectory of the ball, control it, or even do it first time. But if I have to play consciously, I'm looking at the ball,
Yeah.
and I'm looking down, and I can't see the image. I can't see anything.
Mad.
So it's about managing the whole process, and going on to that. There's so many things I can talk about. So you can tell I love doing this, right? And this is why I say to people, a lot of things come from books. The University of East London have actually offered me a doctorate, so I'm going to be doing the next 3 years.
Serious.
And I've chosen it to my research, but I don't know. I've got to submit it probably tomorrow. It's going to be based on football, but looking at what qualifies as football intelligence. So I'm going to be looking at state, unconscious, the unconscious mind, and the conscious mind.
It's almost
state,
like nature nurture, almost, isn't it? In terms of
kind of, but the state is probably the most important because you can be consciously competent, unconsciously competent, but your feelings can literally undo all of that.
undo everything.
So for me, those three equal football intelligence, and that's what I'm going to be.
So you're gonna be
writing my research on.
Dr. George.
Yeah.
I think that's
I rate that still.
I'm just buzzing because I was
Imagine.
going to do a master's in psychology and I would have to pay for it and do this time. I've got this given to me now. They literally, it's going to be like distance learning and I don't have to pay for
You
it.
ain't got to do anything.
Buzzing.
Oh, madness.
Buzzing.
No, I rate that
You
still.
gotta come back, man.
But yeah, man. So guys, that's it from Kevin George. It's been a good one.
Till the
Hope you
next
enjoyed
time.
yourself.
Till the
Yeah,
next
you
time.
gotta
Yeah,
come
no,
back,
definitely. When we do our next live show, you'll definitely like comment to that. I don't want to hear nothing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
little psychology corner.
so
Hey.
yeah, once again, shout out Heat and Lean,
Psychology
Heat and Eat Lean. Sorry, so at Heat and Eat Lean, meal prep, nationwide delivery. Yeah, so just go on heatandlean.co.uk. I'll put the link in my bio, and yeah, with your meal prep stuff, you could just hit them up, and they got that for you. So yeah, guys, it's been good, but we're out.
Easy.
Thank you.